much. Well, as we all know, we are so excited about our speaker today. And one of the reasons I did a meditation about people on the other side was because our wonderful president of the University Church of the Master, Reverend Dr. Jelusich, you can call him Rick, is going to be talking about life after life. And for many of us, that is a real thing. We either talk to people or hear from people or read messages like we did, or that Chris read from us. Because don't you get a feeling of that young man is still coming through? That energy is still coming through. So please, would you please join me as we welcome our wonderful president.
How are you today?
Awesome.
Good. I find it interesting, the topic of the meditation and then the wonderful poem that Chris read, how it all dovetails together today. Am I coming across the page?
Yeah, lift it up a little bit.
Don't squeal. Just okay. Just keep pushing. Let it squeal. There you go.
Why is it after many years of advances, these things still go? Maybe 100 years from now, this will be floating in midair, right? Nothing, and we'll... the retro thing.
Totally.
But I find it interesting that, this weekend we're honoring life after life, how it showed up in the meditation, how it showed up in the beautiful poem. One of my main teachers had an ashram in Japan. In Japan, an ashram or a temple is called jinja. It means the same thing. And he was meditating to move this jinja to another location. And when he studied the geography and the history of the place, it was a known battlefield. So here he is, the head of the Tamabichu jinja, the head priest, and why would I want to move to this place that was a known battlefield? So he meditated on it. He said, to help the spirit of the warriors who fought in that place. So every year they take one day in October and they have a celebration, prayer, meditation to honor those people who fought, but who are still karmically connected to the land. And so I was thinking about the message of how do we empower ourselves as individuals who are spiritualists by nature. We have chosen to look beyond this electromagnetic bio-body suit that we wear, this costume that we wear for a given lifetime of 90 or 120 years, and what is beyond that. And instantly, every person who's ever studied the metaphysics or the spirituality of a human being, we come up against this conundrum. How can you be unique and yet be a limitless being of light that is beyond space and time? How can those two be the same thing? So we have a lot of problems with that. And so as people who engage in a spiritual life, our foundation is love, of course, but the lens through which we've chosen to see is faith. Faith. And faith is the bridge that unifies the physical and the non-physical, or what some people call the non-rational. It's beyond our capability to rationally understand, and yet we know as spiritualist beings that this is in fact true. And so that faith becomes a bridge. And the bridge unifies the physical and the non-physical. So the stronger the faith, the stronger the bridge, until both become one. And so when we start studying how do we make this connection and how do we make ourselves stronger, the Western mind or the Western philosophy usually thinks of, I must make a connection to God. And so the word connection implies me and you, I and thou, I'm here, you're there, that God is in fact separate. The Eastern mind instead would say, I must merge with God, that everything is God, and all I'm doing is revealing more of what already exists that I am a part of. And this is the mostest, coolest thing. Because if you're already connected, there's no place to go because you're already there. As Yogananda said, one cannot be any closer to God than you already are, but you can reveal that closeness. And the work is not how long it takes. The work is that we're in faith that it's true. And that's where the door is unique for every single person. Someone can say, you know, the door is here and it's there and do this. It's like me being the coach of a gym saying, you know, go over there and lift those weights. And the person says, well, coach, I feel a lot better if you lifted them for me. And so if I was a guide for someone and I said, sure, no problem, I'll go in there and lift them for you, how's that person going to grow? Right? You have to actually open the door yourself, and you have to lift them yourself. So this morning I'm meditating, and this thought comes to my mind about our soul group. You know, what is UCM? What is CCL? What are all the charters that make the soul group? And I had in my mind this vision of a video that I saw, and probably you know the name, but I don't. So here I am thinking of this vision of all of these thousands of birds who fly together in this big mass. Don't say it yet, because I've got a funny thing coming up. And so all these birds flying in a mass and moving, thousands of birds moving as one. And I'm meditating this morning. I said, I don't know what to call it. I'll just call it bran muffin.
What?
And I thought, well, why would I call it this? Well, it makes as much sense as anything else because I couldn't think of the name for what happens when you have this mass of birds. So what's the name?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know? Now you're all going to be on Google this afternoon saying, massive birds flying through air.
But I've seen it.
It's a wild geese migration.
No.
It's different from a migration.
Formation?
No, there's a name.
There's a name.
There's a name, and just think of thousands of birds in a cloud, and they're moving all like this. But I was thinking of you. I was thinking of you as souls, all merging and moving together as one soul group in how you are connecting both individually as your own individual and unique expressions, but as a group who came together to do what?
Worship. Teach.
Yes.
Migrate.
To migrate. Well, yes, actually, to migrate the mind away from its preoccupation only with the self, but to surrender to all. And there's humor there. You know, if you study any Buddhism, the Buddhists will joke about it. They say you got to spend your whole lifetime learning to know who you are and what you are, and at the end you got to let it all go.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't matter, right? But it does matter. So another conundrum of we have to live our lives uniquely, and we have to come and use the gifts that we have with harmlessness, compassion, with love, and yet at the end let go of the idea of the self being all there is. So this is where the karma and the reincarnation comes in. I've been teaching that subject since 1994, and at the graduate level since 2004. And this idea of causation, or cause and effect, is what karma is really all about. Karma is an attachment to a person, a place, or a thing that can strengthen the illusion that you're separate from what you seek, or depending on how you look at it, you can have an attachment to something but not be taken away from your internal focus. So sometimes when I'm teaching this course, you know, and I'm talking to the students and I say, karma is an attachment that increases the illusion of the separation from oneness, increases suffering, then people go, oh, I have to go home and separate all my illusions and not be attached to anybody. Honey, I can't be attached to you anymore. It doesn't mean that. It means that in a lifetime, as you choose your spiritual path starts to choose you. And as you awaken more and more to the truth of your spiritual nature, your higher inner guidance says, this way, not that way. This connection, not that. Love this person, but don't project onto them what you want them to be. Love this person and let them be who they came to be, and honor who that person is. Those are two different types of attachment. And so imagine if you have this attachment, well, I wanted them to be this way, and then I died. But then I went into the next dimension as an astral spirit, and I was very connected to how I wanted that person to be, so I was very attached to that connection. So if the premise of today's talk is what can you do to empower your life, you continue to seek within you that foundation of love that is who you are. Connected, not connected, but merged with all things. So in order to do that is to let go of this idea that you're separate from what you seek. And again, a really cool thing about being a human being is that we're a spirit first, beyond space and time, who also has a physical embodiment, one of many. I used to work with a fellow that said, well, I don't know about how many lifetimes, because according to some traditions you get one lifetime, in a Christian tradition, in some Jewish religions you get up to 3, but if you're Lord Krishna you get 8,400,000 lifetimes. So my friend said, well, what if you're just marching abreast of your several lifetimes, and you just slot over into a lifetime? What if there is no time? John Wheeler was a famous physicist, and he said, time is what keeps everything from happening at once. So if you have this unique expression, you're here to emphasize it. However, you are first a spirit. And if you think about it, if your spiritual nature is beyond space and time, that which is you on a higher part of yourself is already setting up the sequence of events, the circumstances that you'll step into in this lifetime that represent the possibility of what my teacher calls emancipation. Emancipation means letting go of that which causes you to feel separate. What brought you here today? As Ian Lungold said, we are the people we've been waiting for. We are the reincarnation of those people who will help bring about the mass inner transformation in this golden era of inner transformation. How can each one of you accomplish that? By yielding to that fundamental love of which you already are, and by yielding to the truth of that which is you as a spirit. So I coined a term. I call it co-creative conscious collaboration. It's just a funny way of saying the spirit that is you is already setting up the events in your life that will represent the possibility to awaken further to the truth of your being. So think about that as happening automatically. No matter how hard you go, okay, I must think about this and register it in my brain. It's already happening because the spirit emanates you as the body in space and time, not the other way around. And that's why we have this experience of a bodily existence and then another. Father becomes uncle, mother becomes daughter, we change places, but there's an infinitude of lifetimes of experience. As Buddha said, we're a lot like the flame on a candle. And the flame burns down the candle, and the flame is just simply transferred to another candle. But the flame cannot be extinguished. The candle burns down. So that's why, you know, some of the Buddhist teachers and others, they joke, they say, oh, this is only temporary. The Dalai Lama was in an interview with a wonderful fellow by the name of Jeffrey Mishlove, and he had a program, a TV program, I think it was called Thinking Aloud.
Yes.
Yes.
And he had the Dalai Lama in one of his interviews, and at the end of the interview, the Dalai Lama stands up and he touches his garment, meaning his body. He says, you see this? I think if we have this, we have a problem. It's a problem. And so this is where the intersection is. As you continue to awaken spiritually, your physical mind and your higher astral and causal selves merge together. Heaven doesn't come into you. You don't ascend to heaven. The two become one. The physical nature and the spiritual nature are just two sides of the same coin. So all you're really doing is reducing the illusion that you're separate from what you seek. And the most beautiful part of that is guaranteed. So then you can accelerate that process through your spiritual practices, through spiritual leaders who will say, okay, you know, you guys want to come to the chakra gym? Come on, let's work out together. Come on, you couch potatoes. You have to lift those chakras one by one. Come on, lift them up. You can do it. Pump you up. And that's the beauty of this work. It's guaranteed. Your spiritual nature is always working. So that's why it has been said that if a person is conscious, I don't mean like awake, I mean working spiritually, opening your heart, trusting that which cannot yet be known with your mind. If you're truly working to be conscious, you're also alert. And that means, this must be one of those moments the universe is teaching me a lesson. Like this morning I had this wonderful success in spilling water from time to time. Getting up going, oh, I spilled it again. And then not in a hard way, but gently hitting my head on the window of the car that I was using. Not hard, but the universe going, see, time to ground a little bit more. Slow down. But I'm going, okay, thank you for not making it a little stronger. Sometimes I'm not the sharpest Crayola in the box. And it helps me to realize, by being alert, it says, okay, it's not how fast I'm doing it, it's how well I'm doing it. So we get back to causation, karma, cause and effect. If you take the emotions out of it, it's not how long you're on this planet. It's what you do with the time that you have. And one of the worst things you can do is compare yourself to someone else. Well, they're much further in the chakra gym. They're already doing 5 reps of chakras right there, and I'm just beginning. Forget about that. That means nothing. It means nothing. Because to compare yourself to someone else means you're thinking in terms of separation, that you're not connected. I love the word God. I know we use the word creator, and we use many other words to mean the ultimate reality, love, but it's the same thing. The beauty of who we are is that we are that love. And if you really want to grow spiritually, you have to dare yourself to yield to the spiritual power that you already have. To yield to the spiritual power that you already have. You like that? You think these notes stand out for me? Like, read this here. I just want to make sure that I cover everything. Like I told Michelle this morning, my lovely Michelle, I said I'm a little nervous, but only because I just really want to serve you well and cover everything. So Sogyal Rinpoche is a Tibetan Buddhist scholar. Brilliant, brilliant man with a sense of humor. He says, one thing we will all very successfully do, we will all very successfully die. But because we're all dying in every moment, what's the big deal? And then he goes on, he says, dying's easy. You stop breathing, you're dead, no problem. Very easy. And he jokes about it because he has I think it's a little vignette on YouTube called Living Well, Dying Well. And he talks about how we think of our life as a series of events, a sequence of events in time, which they are, but there's more to it than that, in that they say in Buddhism, every breath is a death. That you are really the space in between your breath. Like Deepak Chopra would say, you're the space in between your thoughts. And this is not easy for us because in the West, we are so heavily individuated. We are so heavily singularized as unique. So it's hard for us to let go of that. It's easier for the Eastern mind because they're raised more in a way that God is seen as something ineffable, the all, something that cannot be described. Whereas in the West, we tend to see it as a connection. So again, in order to make the most out of this sermon this morning, what would you listen to me with? This or this? This or this?
Heart.
With your heart. With your heart.
I was thinking ears. I'm sorry.
You were thinking ears? You were listening with my ears. And then it would go straight to my heart.
Right. Yeah.
So in order to make the most out of lectures, you know, I had this privilege of interviewing the dean of, the executive dean of the California Institute for Human Science, a very brilliant man named Thomas Brophy. I have a radio show that's on every week, and he's talking about integrative studies, that we are now integrating a lot more into our studies than we had before. For instance, in studying pyramidology or Egyptology, or studying the Maya, or studying the Inca, when we start inculcating more of a spiritual relevance to what these tombs and these cartouches and what these hieroglyphics mean, we start understanding on a whole new level. Everything starts to change as you start looking at things from a higher perspective. Well, bingo, as you awaken yourself spiritually, your awareness shifts beyond space and time into a broader band of awareness and understanding. Someone comes to you and says something to you, and you start to really understand more of what is the true motivation of why they're saying what they're saying to you, or why something is occurring in the world, or why something in the world might become a distraction to you instead of where your focus is here. So it behooves all of us to have that foundation of love, to live a life of faith, a fierce faith that you yield to the spiritual power you already have. And then it could be like Sogyal Rinpoche, you say, well, see you next lifetime, no problem. How many of us could say that? Yeah, you know, like my ophthalmologist is a really cool woman. She's the one that's been working on my eyes. Her name is Padma Nanduri, and her father is also a physician. And so we started chatting about metaphysics, and she says, oh, my father is a hoot. He says in his heavy Indian accent, when I am done, I just take off this old t-shirt. I don't need it anymore. I take the t-shirt off and throw it away. He means body. The t-shirt is the body. No problem. How am I doing on time?
Oh, you've got at least 12 minutes left. But while we have a little break here, Corky, I think we're blowing cold air. It's getting a lot cooler in here a lot faster. If you could just, anybody that knows how to use this thermostat, just shut it off. I think we're fine.
The same problem sometimes in my mother's house. She's, my mother, by the way, just celebrated her 100th birthday. October 20th, and she is one alert young lady. And so my sister and I are caretakers for our mother, and talking about the heat in the house, right? Anything less than 74 is absolutely freezing. So my sister and I
can relate to
yeah,
that.
yeah. And so my sister and I have to be used to, okay, we're home now. Is the heat on? Yes. And so today's topic is life after life. It means no death. But we think dualistically. To say the word life implies death. To say the word death implies life. And yet we have the observer of these experiences is who you really are. You're not the experience itself. Now I know teachers will say that to you, and you walk away going, what in the world was he talking about? It means that in this moment, if you issue a thought in your mind, like, oh, got to pick up groceries on the way home, that thought is not you. It's a product of you, but it is not you. It's the same thing as saying that this body is simply light, but not the flashlight. The light is not the flashlight. The flashlight body is the spiritual you in the higher dimension beyond space and time. The light turns on and it radiates this body into space and time. In the same way that if a woman becomes pregnant and the sperm and the ovum meet, it needs something else. It needs the individuation of the spirit, what is called the Holy Trinity, to merge with that sperm and ovum to create the individuation of the person that's going to be here in this given lifetime, in these given circumstances. The you that is yourself issues thoughts forth, but you are observing your experiences. And this is what the teachers talk about detachment. It means you're more than the sum of your experiences. And how you attach to your experiences defines you. And the way in which you choose to externalize your character, I'm going to pick on you, like our wonderful Janet, who just threw herself over onto the East Coast 17 years ago and said, I'm doing this, I'm going to go help people. Or how she sings to you, just full on spirit, here I am, here's my voice. That's what I'm talking about, how you fully yield to that which you came to do in a specific lifetime. But it's still one lifetime of an infinite number of experiences. I would enjoy for you to be very happy. I would enjoy for you to be very glad that you are who you are. Because when I wake up in the morning, I say, thank you, God, for my body. Thank you for my mind. Thank you for this life path. Thank you for my lessons, although sometimes the lessons I don't know if I'm that happy. But I realize that in some way, the spirit that is me on the higher level is saying, okay, well, you know, this is what's next for you. And how you handle this is what's going to define you in this lifetime. How you handle the challenges in your life define you. And if you say, well, now, wait a minute, it's not just me by myself. I'm a part of all love, wisdom, and will, and therefore I'm never separate from what I seek. What happened to your spiritual power? You just graduated from the chakra gym because you admitted to your power. You admitted to who you really are. Isn't that cool?
That's very cool.
Yeah. Scary sometimes, isn't it? But cool. So I want to thank you for giving me the honor of speaking, because, you know, the spiritual rubber really hits the road when you're on a path that says, I want to continue to improve myself. I want to continue to grow. I want to surrender the illusions in my life that cause me suffering, but also cause other people suffering. I want to live that life that is harmless and compassionate and yet still awakening me. So for me personally, as Richard, I can help as many people as I am allowed to in this lifetime. Then in my heart, I will have felt I had a good lifetime. One perhaps of infinite numbers of possibilities of service. The last thing I want to leave you with is this era is the golden era. It is an era prophesied by many cultures thousands of years ago. And we're finding cultures that have existed 16,000 years ago and more who were very evolved. And I would like to suggest that you become aware that you were those very awakened people before. That you're here again to help this planet, these people, to awaken to the truth of their true spiritual nature. That that's really why you're here. And that as you continue to awaken yourself, 95% of that radiates from you all throughout the universe. Even only 5% in your mind, as Yogananda said, as you awaken yourself, your subtle energy vibrations go out to all creation. Thank you so much. I love you all very much.
Thank you.